Hello, Mystic Travelers. Let's see what the oracles have to say today. This is the series where we just kind of let the oracle do its own talking. We're going to start today with these angel message cards to kind of see what we need to focus on. Light worker. As a light worker, your energy is your offering. Understand that it is not necessary for you to be a teacher, healer, or guide to serve the light. You are serving simply by existing in alignment. Ooh, I've got chills. Okay, so if you are here, then you have felt a deeper calling to this, right? Whether it's in a big way, quote unquote, big way, like being a teacher, healer, or guide, which is, I mean, that's just a normal way, right? We are all teaching each other every moment. Even when we make mistakes and stuff, we're teaching ourselves and sometimes others really valuable lessons. I know in past relationships, the ones that were the hardest emotionally often became the ones that were the biggest, inspiration for change for me. So day-to-day life is often more inspiring, more influential than big dramatic moments, right? People who are the most spiritual often, they aren't doing grand, crazy dramatic gestures all the time. They are day to day weaving that inspiration, weaving that energy into their daily lives and their daily work. Yeah, this is an invitation to step out of roles that you feel like you were meant to inhabit. Right? So where in your life have you felt like you've needed to be a certain person? And it's usually tied deeply to your emotions with this ocean energy here. And with this card as well, I feel like, usually this is, to me, this is like the Venus de Milo. So the idea of feeling like you need to escape societal pressure to look a certain way or do a certain thing or be a certain way. But in this case, next to the Lightworker card, it's saying that this applies to your spirituality as well. Your spirituality does not have to look like doing yoga for an hour every day. And, not everyone has time to, eat perfectly and do a bunch of, daily shadow working journals and things like that. So a lot of times, the most beautiful thing that you can do, instead of giving up completely, it's better to do 5 minutes a day than 2 hours a month at one time. Dogen Zenji says that as well, the great Buddhist monk. He says it's better to meditate for 20 minutes a day than it is to sit down and do like a long meditation. So we had 2 cards that popped out. Abandon worry. Yeah, don't worry about what you need to look like. Don't worry about what you are supposed to be. You are exactly what you're supposed to be. You are who you're supposed to be, where you are now. And as time develops, as you evolve, as time moves on, you'll continue evolving because, if you're at this kind of space, you are not a stagnant person. Sometimes you might feel like there is stagnation in your life, but you are moving. You are constantly moving and growing. So abandoning worry has a lot to do with trusting yourself, trusting the process. Fall, fail, fly. Remembering that failure is a terrible word. Failure is just something you haven't learned how to do more efficiently yet. And one person's failure might be another person's victory. Just like the old saying, one man's meat is another man's poison. So something that you feel like you might have failed on might have been a dream come true to somebody else. So remember that failure is a state of mind, not really necessarily a fact, right? So, and a lot of times, like Rumi says, like when those kinds of things happen, it's opening up your door to some new delight or some new thing to learn, some new way to grow, some new way to feel wonderful. And remember, I talked about last week in manifestation work, your greatest ally is to, throughout the day, spend time feeling wonderful, right? Even if you don't. You want to start training your mind and your emotions on what feeling wonderful feels like. And of course, always go get the help you need externally when needed. We don't want to do any spiritual bypassing here. But, you know, it's not, the funny thing is there's a lot of people like, oh, you're saying fake it till you make it. I'm not saying that at all. It's not like that. It's like your external world mirrors your internal world. And so when you start small, you're more likely to continue the work in the same way that, like, people who say decide to walk 5 minutes a day will often end up sticking to that routine more than someone who is like, I'm going to, I don't know, start, what are they called, burpees or something for 2 hours a day. You know, I'm just shedding apparently. So, yeah, you're being called to do micro magic, micro magic, spiritual. Yes, being spiritual in a it's weird because I'm saying non-traditional, but really the kind of new agey spirituality is really a new creation. It's called New Age for a reason. I mean, it's a reinterpretation of old ideas. But we do tend to, you know, because spirituality also becomes it falls prey to capitalism in the same way that other things do. Like, that's why we get toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing and manifestation shaming and things like that. Because everything that humans touch can potentially fall prey to capitalism, to transactionalism, right? And you're not here to do that. You are here to actually grow. And it can be easy to fall into it because there, you know, what I say, there's spiritual influencers and things out there who benefit off of you not feeling good enough, who benefit off of you needing the next hit. And so as a light worker, which everybody kind of is if they are able to get out of the sleepwalking stage, right? And if you feel like you're in the sleepwalking stage, first of all, you probably wouldn't be on a video like this because you would be like, I don't want to deal with that. But since you're here, so everybody has the potential to move inward and start reflecting the life, the energy that they want, to abandon their worry, to not see failure as a bad thing, but as a doorway to your spiritual growth. And remember that spiritual growth is manifested in reality, in the sense of, like, we don't say, oh, I'm just a spirit. We say, I'm a spirit in a human body. So the human body part does matter. So do exercises where you're focusing on your senses. You know, there's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like list 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, so on and so forth, for all 5 of your senses. And it can really reground you. Even something as small as that, being present or having gratitude, that's enough. Sometimes that's all you can get from yourself, and that's okay. Inner horizon, look at that. Expansion, hope, alignment. The future unfolds from your stillness. Wow, the message could not be clearer, huh? You are really called to start integrating small spiritual things into your daily life. Congratulations. The next journey beckons. Yeah, this is really going to open you up to horizons you didn't even think possible. You might have been subconsciously limiting yourself. It's sort of like the idea of, if you say, I want $10, but you could dream bigger and say, oh, I want, you know, maybe you block yourself from making $500 because you're scared of losing the $10 or something. And, but in a spiritual sense, I think that kind of resonates with, like, oh, I'm going to miss some kind of big spiritual revelation. No, you're exactly where you need to be. And when we talk about the Kabbalistic tree of life, the bottom of one tree is the top of the tree below it. So the top of the tree is the bottom of the next tree. So it doesn't really matter, quote unquote, how far you get. There's always more. So a lot of times it's about letting go and resting into where you're at. And a lot of times that letting go of resistance actually helps you move faster than trying to perfect your spirituality, or that you might even have people, there are gatekeepers, right? In every community, the spiritual community included. And so, don't let yourself be caught up in that. And remember, these readings, I try to give some practical advice, but they're in general to help you reflect and see things that maybe haven't come clear to your consciousness yet, but also to speak directly to your subconscious so that you remember all these archetypes live in your subconscious already. And so when you watch a reading like this, it's actually talking to your subconscious. And so don't be surprised if over the next week or two, your inner horizons start changing. These things will wiggle their way out of your subconscious mind because your subconscious is listening to everything. Look at that. There's so much cosmic energy in this. Look at that. Wow. This dream catcher with the sun behind it and kind of gazing up at it like it's hanging in the sky. It feels so much like you don't have to capture your dreams. Your dreams unfold for you. And that has to do with letting go of control, right? Remember that the universe has your back. You have your back. You just have to dissolve the inner barriers. Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but to break down the barriers within you, that block love. And so, I just feel like that's what you are being called to do right now is see your barriers and break them down. And all I can say for practical application with this kind of deep work is pay attention to your dreams. Try to not adopt other people's idea of spirituality. Gnosis is being spirit taught. Gnosis is trusting your own inner self. I always say, like, you are your own guru. Other people, me, all this is just mirrors for you. So if a reading of mine makes you upset, then that's exactly what needs to be looked at, right? And I understand that. And my hope is always that when you listen to my readings, that you gain more autonomy, right? The whole goal of a spiritual person is that the other people around them are liberated, right? Liberated. And that's my deepest hope for you. If you're here, it's my hope for everybody, but harmony is inner harmony, understanding your own power, understanding your own worth, seeing your inner light worker. It's already there. Releasing yourself from these ideas. Letters you never sent, forgiveness, expression, release. Unspoken words still heal when felt fully. I get the feeling from this that, so many people feel like failures because they are tethered to the past, tethered to these ideas. Oh, because we know that when we walk down one path, when we walk through one door in our lives, another door might close forever. And so a lot of times it can be hard to forgive ourselves. So maybe take a moment and put your hand on your heart for the thing that's been heavy on you. Say, I forgive myself. So for example, for a long time after leaving a toxic trauma bond, I felt so stupid. I was like, how did I get entangled like that? And at some point I had to forgive myself. I didn't know better until I knew better. And when I knew better, I did better. So, we're often taught in society that we are supposed to, we're supposed to be so hard on ourselves for teeny tiny things, but we're supposed to let huge things slide for other people in the name of compassion. But compassion not tethered with boundaries is very toxic. So, for example, you might say something that was a little awkward and beat yourself up over it for weeks. But then you're supposed to let someone else trample your boundaries and not say anything. That's a really common thing that shows where there's kind of a reversal of what is right and wrong. So we actually, I heard a psychologist say this about narcissism one time, that basically in a narcissist's world, right is wrong and wrong is right. And basically what that means is that when, well, exactly the example I just gave, where being hard on yourself for teeny tiny things, narcissists, and like I said, I would almost argue that we live in a narcissistic society. Like, our societal structure itself is built on this narcissistic idea that, like, for example, like, 100 companies are responsible for 70% of all pollution, but you need to feel super duper guilty for using a plastic straw, and you are the cause of the entire fall of the civilization because you used a plastic straw. That is the narcissistic societal structure telling you that wrong is right and right is wrong. Their companies could produce a plastic straw that was decomposes, right? But they don't. That you could compost, they don't. Anyway, so that's this idea of forgiveness, being gentle on yourself, forgiving yourself for things in the past so that your inner horizon can be expansive. So look, we have release and expansion, forgiveness and alignment, expression and hope. What a beautiful mirror for you. If this resonated, my beloved mystic travelers, please tell us below how you have transmuted the feeling of failure and worry and that kind of thing so that you can no longer be tethered to specific ideas of what it means to be spiritual, so that you can interface and interact with your own gnosis, your own inner knowing, as I say, your own inner guru. How do you do that? Because everyone does it their own way, but them hearing how you do it might help somebody else. Different things click for different people. So please, please share your experiences below. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Mystic Travelers, and I will see you next week.